Welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, and the episode I've probably been most looking forward to filming since we started this particular project, dessert wine. There are lots of wines I feel South Africans should drink more of. Chardonnay is quite high on that list. Chenin, we make some fantastic chenin and we don't celebrate it nearly enough. But the one wine we really neglect, we truly don't give enough attention to, is dessert wine. And South Africa makes some of the best dessert wine in the world. It is sweet, it is glorious, it is beautiful, it is the nectar of the gods. Those particular gods are South African, and they have given us some quite wonderful stuff. So if we're talking about dessert wine, there really is only one to start with. Vin de Constance from Klein Constantia. This was a wine that was allegedly drunk by Napoleon in quite obscene quantities. Apparently the week before he died he had a bottle a day. Whether that's what finished him off or not, I'm not sure, but either way he died happy. Dickens spoke about it, and so did Jane Austen in very effusive praise. And to kind of paraphrase Austen, it is a truth universally acknowledged that a young wine drinker of good fortune should invest a lot of money in dessert wine, and this is where you should start. So there's something seriously cool about drinking wine that Jane Austen's spoken about and that Napoleon just about bathed in, and you look at it and it's the colour that first gets you. Yes, it does look a little like a Russian athlete's urine sample, but that deep gold amber colour belies a wine that is rich and thick and amber and liquid gold, really. It's celebrated for a good reason. It's wine that's stood a very long test of time. And it's wine that really we should drink more of in South Africa, and this is your leading reason why, and I've been looking forward to this all day. So this is probably going to lose what shred of credibility I have in the wine industry, and I'll probably have Michael Fridjon and John Platter and Neil Pendock unfriend me on Facebook instantly. But if you can imagine wine as a mouthful of zoo biscuits, that is it. It's just lovely. So slightly more seriously, what makes this so special is it's sweet but not overwhelmingly so. It's definitely thick but not syrupy. It doesn't sit and settle on your palate. It's just a really big, beautiful, golden, glorious celebration of wine, and it really is as good as anything the Constantia Valley has ever done. So Jane Austen, yep, I concur. It's lovely. So from a globally recognised wine with a rich history that probably sells for close on 1,000 rand, completely the other end of the scale. This is Theuniskraal out in Toba, and this is their Bouquet Blanc. It's certainly not as thick or viscous as the other three dessert wines we'll have this evening. It's a lighter wine, but still on the dessert side of things. It's something you could probably have with a Cape Malay curry or a food that's got that little bit of sweetness to it, but I like it as a dessert wine, and because it's a little bit lighter, you can drink a little bit more of it. So what's to recommend this wine? Well, Theuniskraal is in Toba, which has a rich history of making white wine, and this is a natural sweet, but it is white nonetheless. But what really gets me is that where our last wine was about the 1,000 rand mark or close enough, this is just under 30 rand, or it was the last time I was out there. And when I bought a case, the guys at Theuniskraal almost seemed embarrassed to charge me the full 170 rand or thereabouts for 6 bottles. So it is extraordinarily good value. And if you're a wine snob, you think, geez, less than 30 rand a bottle, that's the kind of wine you use to clean a septic tank. I'm certainly not drinking it. But then you taste it and you realize that although it costs next to nothing, it's still something extremely special. So this is a really dangerous wine because you could drink this like cool drink. It's got a very subtle flavour to it. Yes, it's a sweet wine, but there's also just a little bit of sharpness to the end of it. And it's a wine that goes so nicely at the end of a meal. And that's where dessert wine needs to come more into our eating patterns. When you've got friends around for dinner, You often open a couple of really nice bottles of wine, but then you get to the end of the evening and that's where your wine tails off. But you open something like this, it's not too heavy, it's not going to knock you over, and it's a really nice way to finish off a meal. Good bit of cheese, or they recommend a Cape Malva pudding, keep it South African. Either way, this is a sensational finish to the evening, and I don't know how they make any money out of it, but I'm very glad they sell it for the price they do. So we drink a reasonable amount of the Bouquet Blanc in the Nickel household, but if there's one dessert wine we see an awful lot of, it's this. It's the Meerendal Chenin Blanc Natural Sweet. This particular vintage, the 2009, I've had many of them, and it's one of many wine estates I have a personal association with. The owner, Herman Kutzer, is a completely mad South African. He lives in Switzerland, where he spends most of his time riding mountain bikes up and down snow-covered mountains. I can think of many better things to do, chief amongst them drinking my own wine if I owned Meerendal. And this, amongst the many great wines he makes, is, I think, the flagship. Lisa, the winemaker, one of the few female winemakers we have in South Africa, doing a wonderful job, and this in particular is glorious. So amongst his many endeavours, Herman Kutzer, the Meerendal owner, also owns a race in Switzerland, the Fat Bike race, the Festival of Snow Bikes, to give it its proper name. And that was one of the first times I had this wine. It was with Herman in Switzerland, rather oddly, for a South African wine, and I've drunk much of it since. The Chenin grapes are picked right at the end of the harvest, so they're near about just starting to, or rot, I suppose, to be perfectly frank, and that gives them lots of sugar and just makes for a great base to turn it into this. And I'm reminded why I drink it quite so often. It's got that slightly burnt caramel butterscotch feel to it. It's not too heavy. The colour suggests it might be otherwise, but it's actually a little lighter than you might anticipate. But it's got a really rich, deep flavour. And when you're having a dessert or when you're sitting in the snow in Switzerland, it's a perfect companion. Warms you up, but also just sits beautifully on the palate. Nice and sweet, but not cloyingly so. And another terrific example of the amazing dessert wines we make in South Africa that I can only say again, we just do not drink enough of. Right, well, that was sensational. This, though, is probably the biggest rock star in South African wine at the moment for two reasons. It is the winner of Platter's Best Dessert Wine in South Africa, and it is also made by a woman who received from Wine Enthusiast the not insubstantial accolade of Winemaker of the Year. And that's not South Africa, that's anywhere. And that's because Andrea Mullineux is making some quite magnificent wine. So here we go then, as sought after a wine as we have at the moment in South Africa. And if anything's going to really drive the acceptance of dessert wine as a standard part of our evening meals, this is probably it. Andrea Mullineux celebrated now right around the world, and very deservedly so. She and Chris have got a terrific operation, and the wine that Andrea is making is sensational, and across the board. But this is the one we have today. It's not overly heavy, it's only 10% alcohol, so it's a lovely way to finish off your meal. The colour, much like the Meerendal, much like the Klein Constantia, is that rich gold amber. It just speaks of a regal wine, but because there's not that much alcohol, it's a nice light way to finish off a particular meal. And it's a very small bottle, so I'd order a few of them if you could. Not hard to understand why Wine Enthusiast gave Andrea the award that she did. That speaks to similar tones of the Meerendal, in that it's got that sweetness, but not overly so. But this one probably just takes it that little step further. There's a richness to it, a depth to it, and it's just such a perfect wine, I feel, to finish off a meal. So when you've had something very special, you've had a couple of lovely bottles early, you've had a great meal, It's an anniversary or a birthday or a reunion of long lost friends, and you want to put that finishing touch to it, and you want to end with a flourish. You're really going to struggle to do better than the straw wine from Mullineux. So your mission is this: whether you're picking up the wine from danreallylikeswine.com, or you're nipping over to Port, or you're finding it at the estate, and all of these estates are well worth a visit, do me a favour, over the course of the next month or so, when you have some friends around for dinner, or when you go round and meet some people for an evening out, take a bottle of dessert wine round, possibly one of these, and these are 4 great examples. Doesn't have to be though, we've got some other excellent dessert wines across South Africa. But share it, talk about it, discuss it. And I think you'll find that people realise that, you know what, we should be drinking an awful lot more of dessert wine. I probably drink a fair amount as well, but I'm going to do my best to drink even more. Cheers.